After a while later, Huang Yueli felt that her head was about to split open from the pain and was not going to hand on any further. She finally moaned and spoke intermittently, "Save me, please. Save me, save you." White-robed man leaned in a bit closer, seemingly enjoying her tormented expression. "Why should I save you? What benefits will I gain from saving you?" Huang Yueli cursed silently in her heart. If he wasn't prepared to save her, then why did he raise out his hands and obstruct, and even chased away Zhuo Fangping? Did he have nothing better to do? However, under the current situation, she didn't have any stand to be arrogant, so she could only talk terms with good grace. "Save me. I can give you money and profound armaments. Pills." When White-robed man heard, he lifted his head back and laughed heartily, as though he was laughing at her ignorance and stupidity. "Money? How much can you possibly give me? I'm not in need of money. Profound armaments, pills, however much I want. I have it all. You're intending to use those worthless items which you can find on the streets to exchange for your life?" Huang Yueli was pushed back by his words as she thought with indignance. What did this fellow mean? Fooling around with her? By now, she had more or less understood Zhuo Fangping's feelings earlier. This mysterious white-robed man's words could really kill a person. "Then why did you save me?" White-robed man gave a low laugh as he said, "I saved you. Perhaps it was because I wanted to see the effect of the 7-character soul extinguishment skill. As everyone knows, only very few dark attribute geniuses are able to master the 7-character soul extinguishment skill, and it is very rare to encounter someone who is affected by this skill to not have its effect blown up yet. So I wanted to bring you back as a specimen so that I can observe how the 7-character soul extinguishment skill takes effect." Huang Yueli was rendered speechless. The white-robed man shifted himself next to Huang Yueli's ear and spoke in a low voice. "How is it? Have you considered already? If you're willing to be my clinical trial test kid, then I can bring you back. Perhaps in the middle of the clinical trial, you might have some dog *T luck and encounter some medication which might just restrain the dark attributed cultivation method, which may give you a 1 in 10,000 chance of living." When Huang Yueli heard what he said, she went completely silent. Such a black-bellied and sinister person was not commonly found. Based on the white-robed man's power and the way he talked, it reminded her of a particular someone. Huang Yueli's heart surfaced a guess, and she instantly got excited as her heartbeat increased by several counts. She used all her determination and tried hard to open her eyes and take a look to see who was that person in front of her. But the more she tried, the blurry her vision became as an increasing pain filled her brain. That was why she was not able to see the person clearly, until the moment before she fainted, not knowing if it was due to a sudden spurt of activity before collapsing. The face before her suddenly became clearer. A seemingly familiar face appeared right before her eyes. Huang Yueli blinked her eyes, as she wasn't able to tell at that moment that the person in front of her was real or just an illusion. She couldn't help but blurt out, "Liu Bian, you stuffy old fox." Before she could finish her words, her eyes rolled backwards as she fainted. The white-robed man was stunned for a moment, and following that, he agitatedly got up and pounced on Huang Yueli. What did you call me earlier? How could you possibly know who I am? Wretched lass, wake up and speak clearly. You can also listen on." The white-robed man tugged on Huang Yueli's collar as she was repeatedly shook and swayed, but Huang Yueli was in a deeply unconscious state, so no matter how much he called her, she could not wake up. In reality, the consequence of this concussion would highly likely end up in death, which would result in her really sleeping forever. He realized this as well, and after shaking her for a while, he put her down. He mumbled to himself, "Teach, how could this be possible? How could she be the same as that person, to call me by that disgusting nickname? This is obviously an insult to my character and power. This wretched lass looks very young, so how on earth would she know the term stuffy old fox? In the past, only that person would call me by this name. The Liu Bian whom Huang Yueli talked about was the #1 divine doctor in Soaring Heaven's continent, and a #1 pill master. The white-robed man who had appeared in the forest was Lu Bian himself. Besides Huang Yueli, no one else would address him in that way. However, that talented and beautiful lady in his memory had passed on for many years now. Her soul had dispersed, and she would never be able to return to his side ever. Lu Bian shut his eyes as his gaze turned dark, gloomy, and unfathomable. Even so, just that familiar appellation brought back many memories in his heart and touched the deepest scar hidden deep within his heart. He silently looked at Huang Yueli for a couple of minutes and realized that her facial color had gradually turned steely green. Dark attributed profound energy was going to invade her rationale completely. Lu Bian outstretched his hand and pressed against Huang Yueli's chest. Looking at this little lass, she cannot die yet. He instilled a large amount of profound energy into her dantian, and based on his strong and pure earth attributed profound energy, it tussled against dark attributed profound energy. Although it could not get to the root cause, but at least it could prevent the profound energy from spreading, and it would also stabilize Huang Yueli's condition, temporarily stopping it from worsening. He struggled for a moment, but still bent down his waist and carried the young lady as he walked towards the direction of the deep end of the forest. By the time Huang Yueli woke up in a daze, it was already the second day's afternoon. She shook her head and felt that her brain was still painful, as though it was about to explode. Besides that, she could see bouts of darkness, as though she might faint any moment. She used her hand to press on her temples, and it was after an amount of time before she felt slightly sober and could barely see the things in front of her. She was actually in a room. Although the room was not too big, but it could be seen that the master of the house had put much thoughts into the delicate decor, unconventional and yet not too lavish. Huang Yueli sized up her surroundings and still felt muddled momentarily. A clinking sound came from outside of the room as the room door was opened by someone. A white-robed man walked into the room from the outside. When Huang Yueli saw his face, she opened her eyes wide with shock. This man was actually someone she was rather close to in her past life. #1 Divine Dr. Lu Bian. At the same time, the memories from before she fainted came flushing into her as she suddenly recalled. So, when her conscience was muddled, that white-colored silhouette that she had saw was not her imagination from her delirious state, but something that had actually happened. Huang Yueli had intended to say something, but she was cut off by Lu Bian. "Little lass, consider your good luck that my mood isn't too bad today, so I made the sudden decision to save you. But don't be too happy for now. You can also listen on." Lu Bian slowly walked nearer as a cooling, frivolous smile hung on his face. His vision stopped briefly on Huang Yueli's face and followed downwards from her neckline as his gaze swept one round. Huang Yueli instinctually felt something was amiss, lowered her head immediately, and realized that the topmost buckle had loosened, revealing a graceful, shapely collarbone, and a large portion of her delicate skin near her bosom could also have been seen. This was just too embarrassing. She hurriedly sat up and tried to buckle up properly. However, she had overestimated her current condition. The minute Huang Yueli moved, she felt a sense of dizziness, and before she could sit up properly, she fell head down towards the ground. Oh no! Would she break her head? Why was she in such a miserable state today? Yet, the scenario of her head smashing against the ground did not happen as a powerful source of energy circled around her body. Following that, her body floated to midair and banged heavily against a rock-hard chest. Under the acute shock, her already dizzy head had now become completely blank, as she was so dizzy until she could not even raise up her head. Even when her eyes were shut tight, all she could see in her vision were countless shooting stars. If you wanted to throw yourself into my arms, say so earlier. Why bother using such tricks? She could hear a coquettish laugh from a man's vocals beside her ear, and that tone was indescribably filled with evil intentions. Huang Yueli was seldom so dazed and totally could not react to his words. "What?" Lu Bian continued. "I've seen lots of women who throw themselves at me, but if you're intending to use this method to compensate me for saving your life, It's not that I won't consider this possibility, but just tell me straight. There's no need to use this kind of fake falling trick. In Huang Yueli's confused mind, she managed to retain some rationale. After hearing what he said, her expression turned green almost immediately. Even after 10 over years, Li Bian still haven't changed his sage tea eating habits. In her past life, Liu Bian was temperamental and had a cynical attitude, which was rather well known. The number of people who begged Liu Bian to help treat them were innumerable, but as he had a weird temper, unless the other party were good friends like Mu Qingying, otherwise even if the other party brought a priceless treasure to seek consultation, would also meet with difficulties. The worst of all was not only the terms that he had laid out were harsh. Sometimes, even if the other party had met with his requests, he might not even give them a consultation, and it would entirely depend on his mood. When he was in a bad mood, he went back on his words quite often. Because of this, Liu Bian had offended quite various powerhouses in Soaring Heaven's continent, and he belonged to the detested type of people. However, even though everyone hated him, but no one dared to be discourteous to him. When they meet him, they would still need to lower down their stance and pretend to be nice. The reason was because Liu Bian's medical skills were really beyond imagination. It could be said that for the past several thousand years, he had always been the #1 divine doctor in the entire Soaring Heavens continent. No one would dare to guarantee that there wouldn't be a day where they need his help, so no matter how much they hated him, they would need to swallow their pride. However, there was a type of people who would gain priority in front of Divine Dr. Liu. That was beautiful young ladies. Liu Bian was also well known for being a Casanova, and as he was also one of the famous males, and his ranking was just behind Mu Qingying, the number of young ladies who admired him were countless. You can also listen on. Mu Qingying and Liu Bian were very good friends and often appeared together. Whenever the both of them appeared, it would often attract talented ladies from various major sects who specially came to crowd around them or express their love. Mu Qingying's character was extremely cold, and to women other than Huang Yueli, he often looked and spoke harshly. But Liu Bian was completely different. Every single woman who threw themselves at him, he would immodestly take liberties with them. He treated everyone with the same ambiguous attitude, causing many young ladies to shed tears because of him. Besides that, Liu Bian had a special way of doing things. That was if he fancied any beautiful woman, he would give a free consultation for the other party. His only request was for that party to accompany him for an entire month, and she must listen to all his demands and fulfill all his requests. Every single movement must be according to his wishes. It was because of this regulation that he was castigated by many. Some who hated him thought that he was a sex fiend who took advantage of people when they had fallen, and using this as an excuse to soil his reputation behind his back. Only those, like Huang Yueli or Mu Qingying, who were closer to him knew that reality and rumors were very different. It was true that Liu Bian had a filthy mouth, and he often loved to take liberties with ladies. Besides, as his character was wicked, his mouth was not always that cheap. When he was happy, all sorts of ambiguous sweet nothings would spill out, but when he was wicked, he could really infuriate one to death. But if one was to say that he was frivolous, then that might not be so. Huang Yueli sighed slightly as she recalled some things from her past life, and the rage that was riled up by Liu Bian seemed to have descended by quite a bit. She bore with the dizziness, and she clenched her teeth and said, "Can you don't be so narcissistic? Who want to throw myself at you? I merely wanted to sit up, but I almost nearly fainted." "Really? This explanation seems to be real, but you've already leaned against my chest for so long already, and you still can't bear to get up. Aren't you secretly hinting me or something?" Saying that, Liu Bian lowered his head as a smile hung on the corners of his lips, and he gradually went nearer to her ear. "You know, I cannot bear to let any beauty disappointed." Huang Yueli's lips twitched as she went totally speechless in her heart. In the past, when she heard Liu Bian was frivolous, but because she was Mu Qingying's woman, Liu Bian did not dare to show her any disrespect. Now that her identity had changed, when she heard what he said, she felt awkward to the max. She used her strength and pushed Liu Bian, speaking in an infuriated tone. I've already said that I don't mean it in that way. If you don't want to make my disappointed, then scram further away. Huang Yueli moved backwards, attempting to sit back on the bed. But this sudden movement caused her to almost fall down again. Lu Bian held out his hand in time as he held her waist. Little beauty, do you know what it means by your mouth saying yes, but your heart saying no and rejecting your desire, but actually welcoming it? Looking at Lu Bian's expression that looked like a smile, but yet not a smile, Huang Yueli almost wanted to throw up blood. Why was the effect of this 7-character soul extinguishment skill so abnormal? Until now, not only was she not able to utilize her profound energy, she kept having dizzy spells, making her unable to even stand properly. Besides that, she had continuously made a fool out of herself in front of Lu Bian. If he really misunderstood anything, then in future when they met again, won't she die of embarrassment? Thinking of this, Huang Yueli felt that she must find ways to ascertain her identity just in case Lu Bian develops any unnecessary misunderstanding. Lu Bian was also Mu Chengying's best friend, so if she was able to receive his help, then she would be able to return to Mu Chengying successfully. You can also listen on. The only problem was she needed to consider carefully on how to put this across. After all, everyone in the entire Soaring Heavens continent knew about her death in northern ice fields. After the soul had been dispersed, one would completely disappear from the surface of the earth, not even able to reincarnate. Hence, in everyone's eyes, Huang Yueli had completely become a dead person. If she were to jump out suddenly, claiming that she was a person who had died many years ago and was even Lu Bian's old friend, there was a 90% chance that everyone's first reaction was disbelief. After all, even Huang Yueli was unable to explain why she was able to reincarnate and had even assumed her current identity. No matter how one thought, it totally didn't make any sense, but it had indeed happened. Moreover, if Lu Bian chose not to believe her, it wasn't that bad. But he might feel that it's some scheme that his foes had sent to deal with him. If there was such a misunderstanding, don't talk about meeting Mu Chengying. She might even lose her little life here. Lu Bian was a genuine 9th-degree realm expert and was a famous one at that. His temper and character had always been strange, and if there was even the slightest disagreement, it wouldn't be strange that he might just kill her without any explanation. Huang Yueli shut her eyes as she tried to think of a way out. However, she was simply too dizzy to the extent that she was unable to think about anything properly. Just as she was at a loss, suddenly, she felt 2 streams of high concentrated vision on her. Huang Yueli hurriedly opened her eyes as she saw Lu Bian staring at her, seemingly lost in his thoughts. Seeing her open her eyes, Lu Bian raised his brow as he said, "Why? Really that dizzy?" "Not really dizzy, it's very dizzy, extremely dizzy." Huang Yueli's face turned pale as she felt she hadn't been in such a pathetic state for a very long time. She was not exaggerating this round because her soul trace had always been stronger than most practitioners. So, and even if she was heavily injured, her state of mind would be clearer than most practitioners' consciousness. But now that she was so dizzy, she felt that she was unable to think clearly. Had this situation happen on other people, they would have probably fainted over completely. Lu Bian didn't know what she was thinking, so he looked at her in disdain. "Woman, aren't you exaggerating just a little too much? If you were that dizzy, how could you still speak to me so clearly?" Huang Yueli raised her head and looked into the sky as she went speechless. So because her conscience was too strong and she didn't faint immediately, and that was actually a mistake. However, she indeed could not hang on any longer. She felt that she would faint any minute now, and within this short period of time, she would not be able to wake up, although Lu Bian scorned her. But the expression on his face turned solemn. He placed his fingers on Huang Yueli's wrist, checking on the condition of her pulse and profound energy in her body, and even after a long time, he had not let go. In fact, his expression had turned graver by the minute. After some time, did he release Huang Yueli's wrist as he spoke. "The dark attributed profound energy in your body had exceeded my prediction. Initially, I thought that fellow was only a fifth-degree realm practitioner, and his profound energy was not as pure, and he might not be able to bring the 7-character soul extinguishment skill into play. But from the looks of this, he should be from a large sect and have a certain amount of potential, Huang Yueli replied lethargically. After saying so much, are you able to cure me? If you can't, then just say it straight. You can also listen on. Liu Baiyan was dumbfounded when he heard that, and immediately after, his expression turned ugly. The weak lass, right in front of him, was extremely immodest. She returned the ridicule that he had sent to her just minutes ago. Earlier, he said if she wanted to throw herself him, just tell him straight, and now her reply was, if you're not able to cure me, just tell me now. Didn't this mean she was doubting his medical skill? If this could be tolerated, then what else could not be? In Liu Baiyan's entire life, the one thing that he could not tolerate was someone doubting his medical skills. He retorted grumpily, "Who says I can't cure you? I was just saying, judging on your injuries, just based on taking pills alone would not be enough to eradicate the dark attribute profound energy in your body completely. As long as a little bit of dark attributed profound energy remains, the giddiness that you encounter will remain. So, in terms of treatment, there are just some inconveniences." "Oh," Huang Yueli just replied with a single-tone word, even though it was a short reply. But in Liu Baiyan's ears, it was comprehended as thousands of words. This wretched lass, did she think he was not able to understand what she meant? She did not believe in his medical skills at all, and had thought that he was lying? What a joke! Were there any injuries that he, Liu Baiyan, was unable to cure? To doubt him in this way, where had the eyes of this woman gone to? Oh, that's right. A country bumpkin like this lass couldn't possibly know what an extraordinary person he was. However, Liu Baiyan's mood was extremely vile. "What do you mean? Do you think I can't cure you? I'm telling you, it's just a 5th-degree realm practitioner putting his profound energy to use on the 7-character soul extinguishment skill only. Even if it was a 9th-degree realm practitioner's arm, I can also cure. The reason why you feel so giddy is because I had not expected your cultivation to be that bad. If it had been practitioners with stronger power, they would not end up like you." "Oh," Huang Yueli still replied using the same single-tone word. Liu Baiyan answered, You simply trying to anger me to death. Since you don't believe me, then I will help to cure." Saying to this point, Liu Baiyan seemed to have realized something and immediately shut his mouth. He hastily corrected himself. "If you don't believe me, then beg me. If you manage to make me happy and agree to my terms, I can consider giving you treatment." Huang Yueli pouted her lips, as she secretly thought this fellow's reaction was rather quick. She did not want Liu Baiyan to deliberately make things difficult, so she taunted him. She had some understanding of Liu Baiyan's thinking and knew that when this fellow agreed to treat a patient, it was definitely not because he wanted to be a saint helping to tend to the sick and injured. Other than treating his best friends or beautiful women, towards other people, there were several times when he agreed to the treatment. It was just to prove that his medical skills were the best malpractice, and no one else were comparable to him. On seeing Liu Baiyan being angered to a certain point, she had thought that he would surely divulge by mistake, and agreed to cure her. However, the result was he was able to turn around at the critical moment. But no matter, she had even more malicious talk waiting for him. Huang Yueli shut her eyes as she replied, Do you think I'm an idiot? You obviously cannot cure me, and still continue telling me rubbish. Anyway, after I'm dead, you can say that it's not that you cannot cure me. It's because I didn't beg you." Liu Baiyan didn't expect that he would be despised to this degree by a young lass. Her meaning behind her words was that by asking her to beg him, he was intentionally finding an excuse to hide the fact that he was not able to cure her. You can also listen on. As a number 1 divine doctor, did he need to do such a thing? But in order to rebuke her and prove that he was able to cure her, could it be that he really had to cure her? Of course, Liu Baiyan was not really unwilling to help treat her. After all, this young lass was exactly the type of ladies that he admired, and he had indeed not met a young lady who made him feel the same as that person. Only this lass had yet to kneel down and beg him for help. He had yet to haughtily throw out his terms to let her be his puppet doll for an entire month. But how would he reply her? How could he reduce his terms like that? Thinking of this, he suddenly seemed to recall something as his eyes shone. Young lass, the reason why you doubt my medical skills is because you don't know who I am, right? Let me tell you, I'm the only 9-ranked pill master in the entire Soaring Heavens continent, and also a 9-ranked doctor. My name is Liu Bian. As a practitioner, you must have heard of my name. Liu Bian, Huang Yueli gave a blank expression. Liu Bian was secretly feeling delightful. This was known as a man's name, was equivalent to a tree's shadow. Once he revealed his name, this lass instantly paused, knew that she was wrong, knew that she had offended a divine doctor like him, and playing a joke with her own life. He finally felt that he gained some face back, and lowering his chin, he continued, "Do you now understand clearly? For a dark attributed skill, like the 7-character soul extinguishment skill, once the profound energy had invaded your consciousness, it is extremely difficult to treat. I am the only one in the entire Soaring Heavens continent who can treat this. If I'm not willing to heal you, then only death will await you." As Liu Bian finished what he was saying, he haughtily shifted his vision away, waiting for that lass to apprehend his meaning and kneel and beg him for help. By then, he only needed to add in a few more jeering and at the same time raise more demands. Better if she was able to accompany him for a while longer, at least 3 months. After all, he really felt that this lass was alike to that person who he had hidden at the bottom of his heart for many years. Moreover, among all the young girls whom he had met over the years, she was the most alike, not only in terms of looks, but also her tone of speaking. That witty and intelligent look were also similar. However, Liu Bian waited and waited, but he didn't manage to wait for Huang Yueli's begging. He held himself back, and when he finally could not hold it in anymore, he turned around and realized that the little lass had already leaned against a pillow and shut her eyes, not knowing if she had fainted or fallen asleep. "You wake up. What are you thinking about? Don't you want to live anymore? Do you even want me to treat you?" Liu Bian's expression turned steely green, feeling that he had been greatly insulted. Huang Yueli spoke in a neither fast nor slow speed. "Oh, please, uncle, if you want to brag, please don't exaggerate too much. Don't all old men who want to abduct ignorant young lasses bluff by saying he is the #1 divine Dr. Liu Bian? I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of scammers like you that want to cheat people for sex or their money. If I were to believe you, I would just bump into a ghost. Anyway, since I'm going to die, why should I beg you? You." At this moment, Liu Bian almost couldn't breathe. This lass actually treated him as one of those vagrant cheaters who were devoid of conscience. After some time, he finally regained his composure, and in an utterly discomfited tone he said, "Damn it, I said I'm Liu Bian, so I am. Didn't you see this fan that I'm carrying? You can also listen on." As Liu Bian was talking, he extracted a fan from his waist, and with a swish, the fan opened up. On the face of the folding fan, besides a majestic atmospheric landscape painting, there was a massive Liu word. The character was in bold cursive calligraphy, giving off an unbridled and unrestrained feeling. Even if Huang Yueli didn't look, she knew what that was. This folding fan was one of the tokens which symbolizes Liu Bian's statue, and in Soaring Heavens continent, all those who had some experience would know who the owner of this folding fan was. To Huang Yueli, this folding fan was more than familiar, because this fan was an article which she had personally refined that year, and it was a genuine 9th grade upper-level profound armament. The fan face looked like it was made out of the most ordinary scattered gold fine writing paper, but in reality, she had used a 9 dual-petal violet leafed golden lotus in combination with various 9th grade materials, refining it for 81 days before it was refined successfully. Although it looked like it was brittle and thin, but in actual fact, it was indestructible. That was many years ago. Liu Bian dragged Mu Qing before her to help beseech for it. Huang Yueli seldom spent so much energy to refine a 9th grade upper-level profound armament, and at that time, she was giving Mu Chungying some face, while on the other hand, she thought that if she was injured one fine day, she would definitely require Lu Baian's help. Hence, she accepted this task and spent quite an enormous effort on it. After this jade lotus fan's shape had been set, its power was enormous, and in combination to Lu Baian's earth attribute profound energy, it was listed as one of the top 10 profound weapon in the Soaring Heavens Continent's weaponry register. After so many years, to be able to see the jade lotus fan again, Huang Yueli was deeply moved. But she did not reveal her thoughts. Instead, she said, "Isn't that just a fan? Just taking a fan, and you think you can pretend to be Divine Dr. Lu? Which vagrant scammer who pretends to be Divine Dr. Lu don't have a fan in their hands? Aren't you just trying to cheat me just because I've never seen the real jade lotus fan? TSK, you cannot be more fake than this." Lu Baian almost threw up blood. The people he normally met were basically from large sects, and their potential were pretty powerful. It had been quite a number of years since he met someone with such a weak cultivation and a lass who didn't even have a discerning eye for things. She actually didn't know what was what. It's not that he was a narcissist, but someone as charming as him. Just one look, and you'd know he's no ordinary man. No matter who saw him, one would probably suspect which sacred place did he hail from. Little Lear, damn, isn't this considered as narcissistic? Even after he had shown his jade lotus fan, she was still showing that disdain and contemptuous look. This was a 9th grade, upper-level, profound armament. To a 2nd-degree realm practitioner like her, it would be her greatest honor if she could even take a look at it from afar. But yet, she still showed that dissatisfied look. Had her eyes been smeared with sh*T, Lu Baian was completely infuriated now. He stared at Huang Yueli's face as he gloomily said, "Right, since you don't believe that I can cure you, I shall intentionally cure you. Wait and see. I'll show you later if I'm the real Lu Baian or not." Lu Baian left these words and walked out of the room angrily in large strides, and even slamming the door as he left, letting out a bang blare. When Huang Yueli heard this rumble, her initial dizzy brain had started to hurt again. Damn, what kind of man is this? To treat a pitiful, weak young lady like this? Does he still have any conscience left? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli grumbled in dissatisfaction, totally forgetting who was the one who had made Lu Baian so furious in the first place. But this was good in a way. Although Lu Baian's character was slightly vile, but his merit was that he was a man of his words. So whenever he had said something, he would definitely fulfill it. No matter how unruly he was in the beginning, as long as he had verbally agreed to accept patients in the end, he would use all his might to cure that patient. No matter how much effort he had to put in, he would definitely continue with his treatment until the patient is completely cured. Of course, this had nothing to do with professional ethics or out of sympathy. He was merely an arrogant person who cannot accept his name to be ruined. Huang Yueli was rest assured as she laid on the bed, resting and waiting for Lu Baian to start his treatment for her. Only thing was she had a splitting headache and had originally been on the brink of concussion. She was relying on her willpower to hang on, and now that she was finally assured, her conscience instantly started to become blurred by quite a bit. After not too long later, she had fainted once again. By the time she awoke, the sky had already darkened, and apparently it was already midnight. The splitting headache seemed slightly better. At least she didn't keep seeing black spots. Huang Yueli moved her wrists, and suddenly, her wrists were held down by another person. "Don't move. I've painstakingly helped you apply acupuncture, and if you move and the needles have shifted, it doesn't matter if you die, but if the news of me treating someone to her death were to spoil my reputation, are you sure you can take up this responsibility?" Lu Baian's tone was engraved with a deep vengeance. It was apparent that he had been suppressing the flames deep within his heart. Huang Yueli had just woken up from her deep dream and realized that she had been turned face down and back facing upwards, lying on her stomach on the bed. As for Lu Baian, no one knew when he had returned and was sitting by her bedside. The joints on his fingers was holding on to a thin golden needle, slowly pricking into her arm. Was so painful. A peal of intense pain can be felt, and Huang Yueli was caught unprepared, so she moaned out loud. Lu Baian stared at her chillingly, Cry, 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 what are you crying for? Just acupuncture and such a tiny wound. You still dare to cry? As a practitioner, don't you even have the willpower to bear with this pain? Huang Yueli's lips twitched as she realized that this fellow was doing it on purpose, nursing his grudge and exacting his revenge. Looked like the things she had said to bully him earlier had made Liu Bian mad. Before Huang Yueli could say another word, another needle pricked on her shoulder, and the pain caused the sweat on her forehead to start streaming down. This stuffy old fox. He's too underhanded. Just as the third needle was about to be pricked, she hastily said, "You think I've never done acupuncture before? To feel such pain, you've obviously pricked the wrong acupoints. Like what I said, you must be a vagrant scammer. Just this acupuncture skills alone, any roadside true doctor would have better skills than you. You still dare to impersonate divine Dr. Liu. Do I need to impersonate? Can't you feel that the symptoms had already lessened? This divine doctor's acupuncture will cure all illnesses, so stop talking nonsense." Liu Bian had never expected that his deliberate, vengeful way had not only not scare her, but it brought about a fresh suspicion. Huang Yueli heard his exasperated tone and quietly laughed to herself. She replied sulkily, "Since when? I still feel giddy? Moreover, the pain I feel had already masked all other senses. Even if I don't feel giddy now, then it must be because of the pain which had diverted my attention away." You can also listen on. Has water gotten into your head? You can't feel this at all? Liu Bian was extremely depressed as his hand in the air stopped for a short moment before the golden needle pricked into Huang Yueli's back, and his movements had become much gentler than before. "How about now? Is it still painful? Has your symptoms reduced?" He clenched his teeth and inquired. This needle had a slight prickling pain, as though she had been bitten by a mosquito. Huang Yueli satisfactorily hooked the sides of her lips upwards and replied, "Oh, I feel it. I feel it. Indeed, I no longer feel so dizzy now. Looks like your blind guess seemed to be of some use." His highly perfected medical skills were blind guesses? Such an obvious effect was called of some use? Liu Bian cried out in discomfort, but to prove that his medical skills were extraordinary, he was not able to poke her to death with one prick. Moreover, he couldn't bear to raise his hand against someone who had such a similar expression and look. Liu Bian couldn't think of anything else, and holding his anger, he applied acupuncture on Huang Yueli's acupoints with the golden needles. In this entire process, not that he had never thought of using underhanded methods to implicate her, but the minute something was wrong, Huang Yueli would hurl out all sorts of suspicions at him, such as, "Do you really know how to do treatment? Blowing your own trumpet until it's already broken? I don't believe divine Dr. Liu don't even know how to do acupuncture. Vagrant scammer will be a vagrant scammer, admitting it won't kill you." Just listening to these alone infuriated Liu Bian so much that his eyebrows kept twitching. He finally finished the acupuncture and left the golden needles on her for around 1 hour after Liu Bian removed it. "So how are you now? Much better?" Liu Bian asked with a black face. Huang Yueli tried sensing and replied, "I seem much better now, but when I turn my head like this, I still feel giddy and the right side of my head still feels painful." This time round, she was telling the truth. After all, she was seeing the doctor, so if she were to tell the wrong symptoms, it would affect the doctor's judgment, so it won't do any good for her. What's more, as long as Liu Bian did not come out with any evil ideas, she wouldn't intentionally go against him, because all she wanted was to survive only. Liu Bian squinted his eyes when he heard what she said. He stretched out his hand and once again placed it on Huang Yueli's wrist. The dark attributed profound energy in your body had already been dispersed by a large amount. But because the treatment time was delayed for quite some time, so a substantial amount of profound energy had already invaded the inner portion of your dantian and would not be easily eradicated. "So, that portion would never be cleared?" Huang Yueli inquired. "Of course it can be cleared." Liu Bian stared at her in disbelief, as his words had repeatedly been doubted by this lass. But while thinking, he burst out laughing. Once this portion of dark attributed profound energy had invaded the Dantian, it was indeed more difficult to cure. As time drags on, it might possibly invade your meridians and affect your future cultivation. But there is still a way to clear it fast. Nothing can stop me, Li Bian. Just wait and see. As Liu Bian spoke, he turned and walked out of the room. Huang Yueli was stunned when she saw him acting in this way. Earlier, Liu Bian appeared melancholy, sporting a look as though he wanted to kill her, just with his eyes. But after a couple of breaths' time, he suddenly laughed. This was just too abnormal and weird. It was apparent that that fellow didn't have any good intentions. Could it be that he was thinking of other sinister ideas to exact revenge on her? You can also listen on. After a while, Liu Bian returned with two 13 to 14-year-old servant girls. He turned around and instructed the servant girls before walking to her bedside. This time, Liu Bian's spitting anger expression no longer hung on his face. Instead, a smile hung on his face, and his gaze ran from head to toe as he presumptuously sized Huang Yueli up. His eyes undisguisedly bore the four words, "Up to no good." Huang Yueli took guard against him as she questioned, "What's up with you? Why are you staring at me like that?" Liu Bian's thin lips curled upwards as he spat out these words. "Take off your clothes." Huang Yueli was shocked as she couldn't believe her ears. "What did you say?" Her delicate pale face revealed a sluggish expression, temporarily losing her black-bellied and calm smile. Liu Bian saw her expression and his spirits instantly was lifted. He delightfully smiled as he spoke slowly. "Take off your clothes? I think I've made myself very clear. Do you need a more detailed explanation? That means to remove all your clothes, from your inner clothes to the outer ones, from top to toe. Remove all your clothes, understand?" Huang Yueli's face immediately turned green. Sky Cloud City, northeastern region. On an uneven mountain path, the rider dressed in black rode on a steed as it speedily flew on the narrow pathway. Very quickly, he arrived at his destination, a majestic atmospheric mountain, which was also where Li Moying's sect was. The minute he arrived at the front mountain, he was stopped by someone. The disciple standing guard spoke down against him haughtily. "Who is that? Report your name. Do you know where this place is? How dare you rush headlong to our sect's main door?" His attitude was extremely impolite, but disciples from a large sect were often arrogant, and there was no exception even if he was just an outer disciple who stood guard outside the door. The black robe rider got off the horse and passed a token ring to the outer disciple. "Acting on my master's orders, I'm returning to the sect." His expression was solemn as he spoke calmly. The outer disciple was originally in a lazy attitude, but the minute he saw the token ring, his hand trembled and almost dropped the token ring onto the ground. Following that, he immediately adjusted his posture and stood pencil straight. He held the token ring with both hands and delivered it to the black-robed rider's hand. "S. So you're Sir Mo E. It's been hard on you to have completed your tasks while outside. Please enter inside quickly. This way, please." As Li Moying's subordinate, Mo, he wasn't a nobody in the sect. He was also a well-known figure among the inner disciples and had passed various tests and handled the bodyguard position before he became the commander of the Shadow Guards. He kept his token ring and asked the disciples standing guard, "Where is young sect master now?" The doorkeeper disciple hurriedly replied, My position is lowly here, so I'm not sure of young sect master's movements. But I heard that the competition with West Sky region is starting soon, so all direct disciples are currently in closed-door cultivation at the Hind Mountain, so young sect master should be there too." When Mo.E. heard that, he appeared stunned, instinctively feeling something was amiss. Li Moying sent an urgent mail to ask him to return to the sect in the shortest time possible. He had thought something major was happening in the sect, which could have endangered Li Moying's safety. Because of that, he rushed back burning with anxiety, and in the several days of his journey, a few fourth-grade dark snow piebald horses had died from tiredness, which was why he was able to reach the sect in such a short amount of time. But it looked like nothing had happened in the sect at all. You can also listen on A suspicion flashed past Moe's head. His master naturally had his own reason to summon him back, and, as his subordinate, the only thing he needed to do was to listen to his commands. Moe had been thinking in this way as he nodded and replied, "Thank you." He led his horses to the doorkeeper disciple, and following that, he prepared to head towards the rear mountain and report to Lemoyne. Who knew? He had just taken a few steps when he heard a burst of disturbance coming from the main gate, and all the doorkeeper disciples had rushed towards the door. Quite a number of people had gathered along the pathway leading to the main door. He turned his head around questioningly. Right in the sky at the main door, multicolored clouds tinged with sunset hues filled the horizon. And amidst the dazzling radiance, a huge snow condor gradually descended onto the ground. All the feathers on this snow condor were not tinged with any other colors. It was as white as the unmeltable icicles on the top of the snow mountain, and its body size was enormous. When it spread out its wings, it measured as long as 20 meters. Not only did it have strong power, it also looked extravagant and beautiful. After the snow condor steadied itself on the ground, a bunch of outer disciples gathered around and respectfully queued up into a line to pay their respects. On the back of the snow condor alighted a graceful, peerless beauty. She was dressed in a crimson long dress which highlighted her looks, and with her excelling temperament, slender, swaying frame, she resembled an angel who had descended onto the mortal world. In many people's eyes, she was indeed a fairy from the nine skies. After she descended the snow condor, without giving those surrounding her a glance, she walked past the white jade pathway and walked through the main door. Her chin was raised upwards in the entire journey, displaying an aloof and arrogant look. However, in the eyes of the outer disciples, they were head over heels for her, and even after she had left for quite a distance, they were still in a daze in their original spots. He turned around and shot one glance, understanding clearly in his mind. There could only be one person who would display such an extravagant entrance just entering the main door. That would be the precious eldest young miss of the sect master, Murong Fei. Eldest young Miss Murong was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. Not only did she have gorgeous looks, her innate gifts were also outstanding, and she was in famous, peerless beauty in the South Sky region. In everyone's eyes, she was also thought to be well matched for Lemoyne. He had once believed that this eldest young Miss Murong would eventually become his future mistress. But after he had met Huang Yuli on the last trip back to South Yu Kingdom, he already knew what kind of lady did his master like. This aloof and arrogant eldest young Miss Murong was not his master's cup of tea. So he didn't bother to give another look and continued on his way towards the mountain pathway, only thinking to grasp tight on the timing and report to Lemoyne earlier. But just at this moment, a female voice was heard from his back. The person in front stopped for a moment. Although this voice sounded melodious, but it contained a sense of arrogant prestige in it. Moe's brows creased, but he halted his footsteps, turned around, and lowered his head to pay respect to the person who had called out. Eldest young Miss Murong. Murong Fei walked in front of him, and her eyes flashed past a strict, cold glint. His actions were pretty hasty. The minute he received the forged letter she had written, he immediately set forth to return and had only used 3 days to reach the sect. Even though she took a ride in the soaring cloud snow condor, she almost couldn't catch up with him. However, to be able to meet here meant heavens was also on her side. Murong Fei hid the smile on the corner of her lips, and her gaze fell onto Moe as she asked frostily, "Who are you? Why didn't you take your initiative and pay your respects to me when you saw me earlier?" You can also listen on. Moe knew that Murong Fei was extremely particular to stay on her dignity and was someone who was particular about ostentation and extravagance. Those disciples whose status were much lower would be required to pay their respects to her. Otherwise, they would be secretly marked by her. He hurriedly replied, "Please be appeased, eldest young Mississippi. I am Moe, and I have a huge responsibility now to report to my master urgently. so I didn't notice what had happened earlier at the main door. If I had offended you in any way, I hope eldest young miss don't take it to heart." Murong Fei raised her eyebrows and replied, "Your master?" "You are," Mo replied. "I am one of young sect master Shadowguard." Murong Fei had intentionally asked him on purpose, so she displayed an enlightened look as she nodded and continued, "Yes, no wonder I find you familiar. So you're one of Moying's guards." "That's right. I had just returned from outside earlier, and as master had urgently recalled me, I was in a hurry to report to him at the rear mountain, so I beseech eldest young miss to allow me to leave for now." Mo heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that he had got past this hurdle for now. Although Murong Fei's character was cold and aloof, but towards Li Moying, she had always tried to get into his good books. So with this in mind, she was much tolerant towards the subordinates under Li Moying and had never made things difficult for them. But this round, things were not as what Mo had predicted. When Murong Fei heard what he said, she did not let him go off as what she did in the past, but she replied, "Senior brother is currently in closed-door cultivation at the rear mountain, preparing for the tournament which will be held 7 days later. This is the biggest event that is happening in our sect for now, so how can you go and disturb him now? Whatever matter you have, wait until the tournament is over." She turned around and looked at her own guards. "You guys bring Protector Mo to the room on the mountainside to rest and treat him well. This person here is the most popular person around your young sect master." Murong Fei's guards immediately passionately welcomed him. "Senior brother Mo, this way please." Mo hastily replied, "No, rest time isn't urgent. Eldest young miss, I really have urgent matters to meet with my master, and he was the one who used the white-breasted falcon to deliver the urgent mail to recall me. So he must have something very urgent. Even if he is in closed-door cultivation, he will definitely come out and meet me, so I must rush over immediately." Murong Fei creased her brows and replied coldly, "It was rumored that the people around senior brother have outstanding cultivations and were all dependable and reliable. But how come you don't seem to understand the severity of this matter? The tournament is the biggest event that is happening in the sect now, and senior brother holds the hope for the entire sect. How can he be disturbed during his closed-door cultivation? If this disturbance causes damages to his cultivation, are you going to be accountable for it?" Mo was lectured till his face turned pale and his head hung low. But he was still reluctant to give up and immediately replied, "Eldest young miss, please be appeased. I naturally understand the point you're trying to put across, but this is the first time Master had sent out such an urgent mail to recall me. So he must have something major cropping up. I must go and meet him now. Enough. Why can't you be more sensible? Senior brother is in the sect, and there are so many fellow disciples around him. So if he really met with any trouble, who wouldn't be of help? Must he really wait for you to do it? Besides that, I have been meeting senior brother every day for the past few days, and he had been in a pretty good mood. He doesn't look like he had anything urgent to attend to. But that letter," Mo didn't want to rebuke Murong Fei, but when he recalled the illegible handwriting and a few hasty sentences, it made him uptight once more. Murong Fei had not expected him to be so uncooperative, and her tone started to be tinged with impatience. You can also listen on. "What? Did you think that anyone could hurt senior brother in the sect?" Mo hurriedly shook his head. "No, it's not like that. I had never thought of it in this way," he tried to explain. However, Murong Fei didn't wait for him to finish before she cut him off again. "Since that's the case, then don't disturb senior brother." Mo frowned, and a sense of uncertainty appeared at the back of his head, not understanding why Murong Fei must stop him from meeting Li Moying. Murong Fei saw his strange expression and realized that her attitude seemed slightly offhand and immediately relaxed her tone by adding a few more words of explanation. "I had said these was all for the consideration of the sect, but I can understand your feelings as well. Why not we do it in this way? You follow my guards to rest up in the room first. As for your return, I'll inform senior brother. If he wishes to meet up with you, he will naturally ask someone to summon you." After Mo heard this, he thought carefully for a moment and felt that it made sense. If Lemoyne had something urgent to look for him, even if you don't call on him, Lemoyne would also ask someone to check on his whereabouts, and if it's nothing urgent, he would naturally not want to meet anyone while he's in closed-door cultivation. With Murong Fei passing the word, it would be better than him rashly disturbing his master. With his, he nodded his head and replied, "Then I will have to trouble eldest young Mississippi." Moe following Murong Fei's guards and making a turn, he made his way towards another mountain pathway. Murong Fei let out a frosty smile upon seeing his disappearing silhouette. She was going to meet Lemoyne, but she would absolutely not remind Lemoyne about Moe's return. If she were to allow them to meet, then the fact that she had sent the assassin to kill that lass would be exposed. She was worried that Zhuo Fangping would not be able to find an opportunity to take action, so she wanted to make more time for him, so that he would be able to ensure things go on without a flaw. As for that summoning letter, it was not even from Lemoyne, so even if Moe waited till the end of time, Lemoyne would not possibly summon for him. When Moe finally realized something was wrong, that wretched lass's bones might have already turned to ashes. As Murong Fei delightfully thought of these, the smile on her lips grew wider. She held out her hand. "Little butterfly, serve the Millennium Snow Lotus porridge which I had made earlier, and follow me closely. I'm going to the rear mountain to meet with senior brother." In the deep end of the forest, a little courtyard laid within. Huang Yueli subconsciously held the blanket in front of her chest tightly as she stared chillingly at the man in front of her. Those words that Liu Bian had said earlier simply sounded too dubious. Would take it all off, remove cleanly. Would an honorable person even use such words? Could it be that he was really intending to lay his hands on her? Speaking of this, Liu Bian helmed the reputation of the #1 playboy in the South Sky region, and even if she didn't feel there was any major problem with Liu Bian in her past life, but that could only be because she was Liu Bian's best friend's sweetheart. As the saying goes, you cannot fool around with your friend's wife. So perhaps Liu Bian was courteous to her because of this. But now, he didn't know her identity, and perhaps he really had some warped thinking in his mind. Liu Bian looked at her uptight expression, and instantly his spirits was lifted. This irritating young lass, hadn't she not shown him any respect earlier, and even disrespect his dignity? How about now? Ha 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 ha. He didn't believe that he cannot cure this flat-chested young lass at all. You can also listen on. Thinking of this, Liu Bian opened his mouth once more. Why? Didn't hear me clearly? Still not going to undress? Oh, right, I understand now. You must still be suffering from concussion and feeling faint, so you don't have the energy to undress. I've wronged you. No matter. Let me help you. Undressing or the likes. I'm the expert in this. He protruded his cheeks and moved closer with an ambiguous expression, seemingly like he needed a good spanking. Huang Yueli's mouth started to twitch. If it hadn't been for lethargy and all the profound armaments she had were exhausted during the battle with Zhuo Fangping, she would have thrown a thunderflame ball on Liu Bian's face long ago. Really wasted to have such a handsome face. His character really seemed like it needed a spanking and looked especially wretched. Liu Bian stretched out his hand to snatch the blanket covering her. As Huang Yueli prepared to shoot her mouth off at him, suddenly a creak sound was heard as the room door was opened from the outside. "Master, the items you require have been prepared." For serving maids entered the room, and they were talking while walking in. The minute they entered the room, the scene they saw was two people huddling tightly at the corner of the bedside. The few of them immediately stopped in their tracks, and using their hands to cover their mouths, they gave an astonished and vexed expression. Huang Yueli's mouth started twitching again. From the expressions of those serving maids, without a doubt, they had mistaken her and Liu Bian, the unprincipled one, were having some illicit affair. Only heavens knew that she had no interest in this sullied butterfly at all. Liu Bian smiled as he raised his chin and raising his brow, that expression looking contented. Huang Yueli turned her face around with a chilly expression, not giving him a hoot. Liu Bian turned around, and when he faced the serving maids, the smile on his face instantly disappeared into thin air. Who told you that you could enter the guest room without knocking on the door? Don't you even have any manners? Although Liu Bian usually despised worldly conventions, but he was after all a ninth-degree realm expert, and when his stern face was turned on, that imposing manner was definitely extraordinary. The serving maids turned pale with fright and apologized profusely. "Master, please be appeased. Qing'er is at fault. Please mete out punishment to me." Liu Bian replied, "Go to the in charge and receive your punishment by yourself. Leave the things and you can go." The few serving maids were scared out of their wits and hurriedly left the items before running out of the room. Huang Yueli turned to take a look and found that the serving maids had brought in a huge bathtub. It was as tall as one man's height, and the width was so large that it could seat 2 people with more space to spare. Beside the bathtub were various grades of medicinal herbs. Other than these, there were several pails of boiling hot water. Huang Yueli instantly understood what was going on. Liu Bian had wanted to let her soak in a medicinal bath to expel the dark, attributed profound energy within her. This was a commonly used treatment, and Huang Yueli had encountered this plenty of times. If it hadn't been for Liu Bian, who had put it so ambiguously to her in an attempt to mislead her, she would have thought of this long ago. On seeing the bathtub, Huang Yueli felt relieved, and pulling the blanket aside, she sat up. She was still experiencing obvious dizziness, so she didn't dare to move too quickly. She placed one hand against the railing of the bed, and the other held on to the mattress as she slowly arose. When Liu Bian saw what she was doing, he held on to her shoulder and steadied her swaying body. "Come on, aren't you feeling dizzy? Don't push yourself too hard. Let me help you along the way. I can also help you undress directly. You really can't find such a good-hearted doctor like me nowadays. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli was dumbstruck as she had been completely defeated by his thick skin. However, even though nothing nice comes out from this fellow's filthy mouth, but knowing that his motive was to let her soak in the medicinal bath for treatment, Huang Yueli wasn't a single bit worried. As a doctor, he would definitely not do anything which would affect the treatment. After all, what Liu Bian was most afraid of was to ruin his own reputation as the #1 divine doctor. So Huang Yueli might as well let him help hold her as she slowly made her way to the bathtub. Since it saved more energy when someone was holding her, and since that person liked to service others as though a serving maid, then why would she reject this offer? The duo stopped when they reached the side of the bathtub. Huang Yue knew that the next step she should take was to undress and jump into the bathtub. So she looked back and stared at Liu Bian, clearly intending that he should get lost. However, Liu Bian didn't move a single step and looked back directly at her, his expression filled with provocation. "What's the matter? Lass, why aren't you undressing? Could it be you are waiting for your brother here to help you undress? Then I really won't stand on ceremony?" Liu Bian waited for her exasperated or embarrassed reaction because she only had 2 routes to take. One was to undress in front of him, or she could take up his suggestion to help her remove her clothes. And it seemed that it was impossible for her to agree to either one route. So, what reaction would she come out with? It was something worth looking forward to. Liu Bian actually didn't realize that his thinking was abnormal, but after that person had died, he hadn't met with any young lass who had made him interested in the past 10 over years, and simply couldn't wait to tease her. Huang Yueli remained rooted to the ground and calmly shot him a glance. "Uncle, how old are you now? You still dare to claim that you're a brother? If you had kids when you were younger, you'd probably be my grandpa's age already." Liu Bian's expression on his handsome face paused for a moment, and very quickly, it turned green and purple as though he had just swallowed a housefly. "Wakao, where on earth have your eyes gone to? Uncle? Have you ever seen such a handsome and charming uncle? And Grandpa, paw your head. I'm not that old, all right?" As compared to this obviously inexperienced young lass, he was naturally older by quite a bit. But for 9-degree realm practitioners like him, their lifespan would last at least a few thousand years, and as for their looks, they would have to wait till they reached 900 years old before signs of aging would appear. Any time before that, he would maintain his looks when he had just broke through to the 9-degree realm when he was 28 years old. So amongst the 9-degree realm practitioners, Liu Bian was considered as extremely young and with such a devilish handsome face, from 3-year-old Lolita to several hundred-year-old 9-degree realm female practitioners, which lady had not been smitten by him. Only this blind lass in front of him dared to despise him for his age. Liu Bian's expression turned green, and just as he was about to lecture this young lass on what was known to respect her elders, ugh, no, to admire handsome men. This round, Huang Yueli opened her mouth again. I say, uncle, do you really want to see me undress? Of course. Liu Bian originally wanted to trick her, and as he had been agitated by her earlier, he naturally would not let go of this opportunity to make a practical joke out of her who had despised her as old. Huang Yueli pursed her lips as though she was in an awkward position. All right then, I'm really going to undress. What? Did he hear it wrongly? This lass was really preparing to undress in front of him? You can also listen on. Liu Bian's eye turned wide as it almost dropped out from its sockets. No, wait a minute, this must be unreal. This lass would rather die than give in to the assassin, but when she met him, a charming and elegant handsome man, she actually gave in that easily? Could it be that she was conquered by his handsome looks? Liu Bian narcissistically thought, while he didn't really believe this. Was this lass fooling around with him? Trying to scheme him? Too innocent. When he hoaxed her continuously later, it would definitely make her cry non-stop. Liu Bian's mentality now was equivalent to a 7- or 8-year-old boy. The more interest he had towards a girl, the more he wanted to make her cry. Apparently, he didn't notice how childish he was. However, without waiting for him to continue, Huang Yueli said, All right, then I'll undress now. Saying that, she really pulled open the front lapel of her clothes, and with a whoosh, she had revealed her outer clothes. Fuck! Liu Bian's first reaction was to turn around, and both his hands covering his eyes tightly. You wretched lass, don't you have any morals at all? You actually undressed in front of a stranger? Ah ha ha ha! Huang Yueli's laughter came reverberating from Liu Bian's back. He then realized that he had been tricked, and as he turned around, he saw that there were several layers of clothes on Huang Yueli. The outer layer was a smock, and after she had removed that, she still had inner robe and undergarments on her. So there was no way she would be exposed. Stinking lass, you dare to fool me? Liu Bian's expression turned as ugly as it could be. Huang Yueli laughed as she replied, Uncle, don't act tough. I realize that you're actually an honorable and upright man. Me? You're talking about me? What honorable and upright man could I be? Did you make a mistake? You really think I won't force you? Liu Bian flushed red as an embarrassed glint flashed past his face. Huang Yueli laughed till she couldn't speak. In actual fact, she had already discovered in her past life that Liu Bian only appeared as a Casanova and abnormal, but in reality, he wasn't the extreme which he displayed to the outside world. She had already witnessed before in her past life that sometimes when Liu Bian talked to her, his face would be flushed, and he looked rather pure and innocent. No one knew why he displayed a Casanova look and acted in a flirtatious behavior. Seeing that Liu Bian's expression was a mix of embarrassment and anger, Huang Yueli quickly grabbed hold of the screen and pulled it towards the side of the bathtub. I'm really going to undress now, so just wait behind the screen. Why should I listen to you? Liu Bian's expression was black like coal as he was filled with anger, bearing a look which showed that he couldn't wait to strangle her to death. However, his actions and the words he said were totally the opposite. Liu Bian looked at Huang Yueli holding up her dizzy head and taking the screen from her. He moved it to encircle the surroundings and even helped to pour the water and medicinal herbs into the bathtub before leaving the area. Walking to the external boundary outside the screen, he sat down on a chair. Slight rustling sound echoed from the screen, and it was obvious that Huang Yueli was really undressing this time. Liu Bian sat on the chair and hesitated for some time before he called out, Hey, young lass, the water in the bathtub is boiling hot, and the medicinal herbs inside are rather stimulating. So when you enter, before he could finish, he heard a splash sound. You can also listen on. Must be more careful, otherwise it will scald you to death. Liu Bian mumbled as he completed his sentence and discovered that the lass had already entered the bathtub, and his expression turned dark once again. He had gone through an intense battle in his mind before he decided to give up the opportunity to play a trick on her, just as he wanted to remind her to take caution of the heat, who knew that this lass was looking for death and had jumped right in. What a waste of his precious sympathy. Even if she was scalded to death, she deserved it. Liu Bian silently cursed. But after a while, he discovered that there was no strange sound coming from inside at all. Only the sound of water gently flowing, which let out a light, splashing sound, could be heard. Could it be that this lass was really scalded to death alive? Liu Bian's eyebrows knitted into a knot as he opened his mouth and inquired, "Hey, lass, are you still alive? You had spent so much effort to save me, and now you're cursing me to die?" Huang Yueli's sulky voice was heard from behind the screen. Liu Bian heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time, he felt something was weird. This medicinal bath. Don't you find it scorching hot? Scorching hot? It's still all right? Huang Yueli answered indifferently. To tell the truth, she really didn't feel that this medicinal bath was scorching hot. The reason was because every time she advanced, the medicinal bath that she was soaked in was hotter than this by at least 100 times. Besides that, the bathtub was continuously heated by true phoenix fire, so that feeling was extremely overwhelming. It could simply burn a live person into charcoal. If it hadn't been for her unique flame spirit physique, she would probably have ended up dead. Compared to that, Liu Bian's medicinal bath was merely stimulating, so to her, it was just an appetizer. However, when these words fell onto Liu Bian's ears, he displayed an astonished look. In fact, he had intentionally added more ingredients to this medicinal bath because he was petty over the fact that this lass had tricked him several times, so he purposely added in plenty of stimulating herbs. Not only were these medicinal herbs were not harmful to Huang Yueli's body, it would only do her good. But once the medicinal water had risen to the boiling point, that stimulating feeling, if an ordinary person's finger were to even slightly touch a little bit of it, that person would immediately yell inordinately. To think that this lass actually had no feeling. Just how strong was her determination? Liu Bian's eyes turned wide, but he could not speak out at this moment. Huang Yueli didn't say much and just sat there, soaking in the medicinal bath. But after soaking there for a while, she felt that it was too boring, and adding on to the fact that her head was still rather dizzy, she almost fell asleep in the bathtub. She raised her voice and called out, "Hey, uncle, are you still outside? I'm here, what's wrong?" Liu Bian was holding on to a medical scroll as he sat outside. "What's up? Want me to soak in the bath with you? Say so earlier. Even if you did, I also won't accompany you." "TSK, who cares about that? I was just about to say, since it's so boring, let's have a chat." The corners of Huang Yueli's lips twitched. This fellow was good in everything except that his mouth was just too cheap. Chat about what? Chat. Uncle, this afternoon you told me that you're the #1 divine Dr. Liu Bian. Is that true? Liu Bian sulkily replied, "What do you think? I've already nursed you to around 70 or 80% of your health, and you're still asking such questions. Are you really blind?" Hee, I was just asking. Huang Yueli had only wanted to find a topic to chat so that she wouldn't fall asleep in the bath in case she choked on the water. But after exchanging a few sentences with Liu Bian, her heart felt a swirl because there was a burning questions which she had kept within her heart for a very long time. "Uncle, I heard that you're good friends with Soaring Heavens Continent's #1 expert, Mu Qingying. Is that true? Do you know how is he right now? You can also listen on." It was after Huang Yueli popped the question did she realize how much she longed to know about Mu Qingying's current situation. Before this, she was situated at a small place like South Yu Kingdom and had no way nor channel to find out about Mu Qingying's news. So at that moment, her inner heart was still at peace, suppressing the imperative feeling. As she was a rational person, she knew it wouldn't help even if she was anxious, so the only thing she could do was to take one step at a time to gradually become stronger and think of ways to achieve her goal. However, Now that Mu Chengying's best buddy was just right beside her, Huang Yueli could no longer contain the impulse within her. The minute the words came out of her mouth, her heart started pounding madly. It had been 2 months since she was reincarnated into this body, and she could finally find out Mu Chengying's situation. But after waiting for several moments, she didn't get a reply from Liu Bian. Huang Yueli subconsciously frowned as puzzlement got her wondering what that wily man could be thinking about. After a while more, there was still no sound from outside of the screen. She could no longer keep it in and questioned, "Hey, uncle, are you still there?" "Here," Liu Bian answered in a low tone. "I asked you something earlier. Why didn't you answer me?" "What did you ask me? I didn't hear you clearly." Liu Bian's tone sounded weird. If it had been normal times, Huang Yueli would have long realized something was not right. But today, she was just too anxious to find out about Mu Chengying's situation, so she had overlooked this point. "Uncle, you must be getting old. You actually are hearing impaired. I was asking you, do you know what's happening in Blue Profound Sect, and what is Murong Sect Master doing nowadays? I heard that he had reached the peak of 9-degree realm many years ago, and had been searching for the pathway to God Realm. So has he successfully broken through to God Realm? And has he married anyone? Does he have anyone beside?" The minute Huang Yueli opened her mouth, she realized that the number of things she wanted to know were simply too many. It had been 14 long years since they had been apart. 14 years was enough for a baby to become a beautiful young lady. It wouldn't be surprising if anything were to happen in this period of time. Hence, the more Huang Yueli asked, the more unstoppable she became. However, just as she was talking without respite, suddenly, "Enough! Shut up!" Liu Bian's tone brimmed with anger, as though a jolt of lightning had exploded beside her ear. "You're not allowed to mention Mu Chengying. This name." The voice was fuming with rage between gritted teeth, was able to make Huang Yueli feel the deep grudge Liu Bian had within. Huang Yueli was dumbstruck momentarily. "But isn't Mu Cheng?" "Shut up. I'm asking you to shut your mouth." With a whoosh, Liu Bian actually pushed the screen between the both of them flat onto the ground as he walked in utterly discomfited. Huang Yueli hurriedly pushed her body downwards a little more, allowing only her neck to surface above while the rest of her body was submerged in the water below. Luckily, the bathtub was high and could basically cover her entirely. Liu Bian took large strides towards her, and the usually composed, smiling, handsome face was now flushed red as the corners of his eyes were raised. The rage could be visibly seen. "Young lass, I've been very tolerant with you. On account of your young age, and you look like all the tricks and unkind words that you had done and talked, I've already not haggled with you on it, and even curing you. But this does not mean that you can easily step on my bottom line. You can also listen on." As Liu Bian was speaking, the profound energy within gushed out uncontrollably, and the surrounding air instantly became scorching hot. Even though he didn't meant for it to happen, but Liu Bian was still a genuine 9-degree realm practitioner, and just this unintentional release of his profound energy caused some serious impact on Huang Yueli's dantian. She made an "oop" sound and felt something sweet gushing up her throat, almost spitting out a mouthful of blood. Huang Yueli quickly controlled the limited, profound energy she had in her body in order to minimize a portion of the impact. However, as the disparity of their cultivations as too huge, she was still able to feel the injury on her meridians getting serious by the minute. A sliver of blood flowed down from one corner of her mouth. Liu Bian saw her blood, and he recollected his thoughts, gave a cold snort, and retracted his profound energy. However, the fury on his face did not seem to lessen. Women are so superficial. Why are you all only after the looks in a man? Continence number 1 handsome male. What about it? Am I worse off than him? People who think he's more handsome are really blind. As for continence number 1 expert, that's a huge joke, usually saying how powerful he is. He couldn't even protect the woman who he loves. Could he even be considered as a man? As Liu Bian's face sunk, he sneered. When Huang Yueli heard these, she became even more lost. At the same time, The shock in her heart had multiplied several times. No one knew better than Huang Yueli on the strength between Mu Chungying and Lu Bai's friendship. They were best buddies who were able to leave their entire fortunes and lives in each other's hands. There was even a period of time when both of them couldn't leave one another's sight. Huang Yueli had even wondered if both of them were in that kind of relationship. In her previous life, both of them had knew one another for more than 20 years and had always been each other's most trustable friend. Huang Yueli was very sure that Lu Baiyan would be able to help her locate Mu Chungying. But from the current situation, it looked like, why were things so different from what she had imagined? From Lu Baiyan's reaction, it was definitely not faked, and moreover, he had no reason to act in front of a second-degree realm young lady like her. The truth was now right before her. Towards Mu Chungying, Lu Baiyan hated him to the core, to the extent that he didn't allow anyone to mention Mu Chungying's name. How was this possible? If it hadn't been something that she had witnessed with her own eyes, even if Huang Yueli was beaten to death, she wouldn't believe this would have happened at all. Mu Chungying and Lu Baiyan fell out. Moreover, from such a wonderful relationship, the two friends turned foes. This is what was going on. She completely could not comprehend. Lu Baiyan intentionally restrained his imposing grandeur, just in case he jolted Huang Yueli to death accidentally. But the anger within had not dissipated. He took a few steps forward and had stuck himself to the side of the bathtub. He lowered his head and looked at Huang Yueli's eyes. Huang Yueli took a towel with the intention to cover herself, but as the towel was not big, she felt that her movements would lead to her being exposed instead. Just as she was hesitating, she suddenly felt a sharp pain on her chin. Lu Baiyan stretched his hand and pinched her chin. Using that infuriated, handsome face, he inched towards her pale, delicate face as his gaze locked in on her eyes. Little lass, I think you're intentionally acting ignorant with the intention to anger me, right? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's eyes grew wide as she felt the strength gripping on her chin becoming stronger, as though it was going to break her chin into fragments. Her face contorted in pain. No, I didn't mean it in that way. Lu, Divine Doctor, why would you think in this way? You dare to say you didn't. Lu Baiyan's voice instantly became colder than usual. Who in the entire soaring heavens continent doesn't know that it is a taboo to mention that person's name in my face? Whoever dares to mention about him in front of me is simply looking for death. For so many years, no one had dared to do what you did, purposely mentioning him in front of me, and you dare to say that you're not provoking me? I really didn't know. Huang Yueli's heart skipped, simply unable to believe her ears. Judging from what Lu Baiyan meant, was that he and Mu Chungying had turned from friends to foes, and it had already been in such a state for 10 over years. Didn't that mean that these two had completely fallen out with one another and became enemies not long after she died in the Northern Ice Fields? What on earth had happened? She recalled that 1 month before her death, she had still seen Lu Baiyan and Mu Chungying drinking together, and at that time, both of them behaved like they were best buddies. Subsequently, what happened? Huang Yueli felt that herself was innocent, as she didn't know what had happened. How would she know that such good buddies like them would mutually fall out with each other to the extent that Lu Baiyan did not even want to hear Mu Chungying's name? It's all over. Would Lu Baiyan harm her on impulse? Her injury had finally got a little better. However, Huang Yueli was still fortunate. Luckily, she was overly concerned earlier and had not revealed her status at the first moment. Otherwise, if Lu Baiyan had found out that she was the reincarnation of Huang Yueli, then she would get into deep trouble. In the past, when Lu Baiyan and Mu Chungying were close, she was the sister-in-law. But after both of them had fallen out, she guessed that in Lu Baiyan's eyes, she had become the enemy's woman. Using the enemy's woman to exact revenge was commonly seen, and if things turned bad, she might even lose her little life here. Now that Lu Baiyan doesn't know her real identity, he probably wouldn't kill her. After all, she was a patient whom he had accepted for treatment, and if she died at his turf before she was fully cured, it would be damaging to his reputation. Liu Bian was extremely concerned regarding matters which would affect his reputation on medical skills. As expected, Liu Bian stared daggers at her for some time, and before he crushed her chin, he snorted eventually, released his grip, and ditched her. Huang Yueli's head turned to one side and coughed non-stop, feeling the blood in her chest gushing up. Obviously, she had sustained a sizable internal injury. Who on earth did she offend? Before her old injury was healed, she sustained a new one. Liu Bian saw her suffering, and a sense of guilt flashed past his eyes. But very quickly, he hid his emotions. His chilly glare fell onto her as his voice appeared cold and emotionless. I don't care if you really didn't know or pretending not to know. If I were to hear you mention his name once more, I absolutely have 1,000 ways to let you remain alive. But to suffer 10,000 times more than you're dead, you better mark my words well. Saying that, Liu Bian resolutely turned his head, and with big strides, he slammed his way out of the door. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli held her chi and blood-raging chest as she looked at Liu Bian's leaving back, her mind still in puzzlement. No matter how she thought about the matter between Mu Chengying and Liu Bian, she couldn't figure it out. However, today's matter also gave her a reminder. It was not possible for her to use her past life's experience to judge the current soaring heavens continent's powerhouse distribution and interpersonal relationships. After all, in the 14-year interval, the number of things that had changed were just too much. Even the friendship between Mu Chengying and Liu Bian could change completely. Then as compared to the relationship between the various sects and powerhouses, the changes in these would be much easier. If she had intended to rely on her past life's experience, then she would ultimately suffer a setback. As for today, her luck was considered all right. It was just out of some concerns that she did not reveal her identity, and since Liu Bian didn't show any intentions to kill, she was able to escape the calamity. If it had been anyone else, perhaps that person wouldn't be that lucky. Huang Yueli sat in the bathtub until the water had turned chilly. She had just adjusted her internal breath, and standing up, she dried herself and wore her outer clothes. As she had been injured by Liu Bian's earth-attributed profound energy, Huang Yueli was depleted of energy, and the minute she laid back on the bed, she drowsed asleep not long after. Right at the moment before she fell asleep, Huang Yueli's mind suddenly flashed a thought. 14 years, everything had changed. In that case, had Mu Chengying's feelings towards her changed as well? 3 days passed by with a flash. Northeast section of Sky Cloud City, Limoying's sect. Mo was sitting in the guest room as the feeling of uneasiness grew. It had been 3 days since he rushed back to the sect from South Yu Kingdom. But Limoying had not once ordered to see him, and because he was worried that he would disturb his master's closed-door cultivation, so he did not disturb him at all. Initially, he was confused by Murong Fei's saying, feeling that what she said made some sense. But after a few days, Mo reiterated his thinking and felt that something was wrong. He had returned for so long, and Limoying had always been in closed-door cultivation at the rear mountain. Not once did he leave, not to mention meeting with any danger. Everyone in the sect knew about this, so there was no way to fabricate this. Since Limoying was in closed-door cultivation, not able to make any time to meet with him, then what was the reason for asking him to return? The most puzzling thing was the letter from the Swan Goose mentioned that Limoying had met with an unsolvable danger, so all the shadow guards were to be recalled back. Otherwise, he would not be able to solve this trouble. But Mo realized that the only shadow guard who had rushed back seemed to be only him. For such a long time, he had not seen a second shadow guard appear in the sect. Now that things were so queer, Mo couldn't help but feel suspicious. He reckoned over and over again, and a shocking guess appeared in his mind. That was, Limoying did not actually send him any letter for him to rush back to the sect. The Swan Goose letter that he received could have been fake. If it wasn't for this case, there was simply a way to explain the various doubts which had occurred. But if this was the truth, what was the motive in sending him this letter? Once Mo started to think towards this direction, his heart turned terrified instantly. because his main duty in South Yu Kingdom was to protect Hanang Yueli. Then the motive in luring the tiger down the mountain was naturally to act towards Huang Yueli. You can also listen on. When Mo thought of this, the sweat beads on his forehead started sprouting like crazy as his heart turned icy cold. How could he have been so silly and didn't realize at that point that someone would have falsified Li Moying's command to transfer him away to harm his future mistress? If his guess was right, then wouldn't Huang Yueli be in grave danger? Huang Yueli was just a second-degree realm practitioner, and she had no expert bodyguards protecting her. And the only people who could possibly knew about Mo Yi's identity could only be Li Moying's enemies, and their power were definitely extraordinary. In comparison, Huang Yueli was just a little lamb who lacked the ability to resist. As long as Mo Yi had left, she would become a piece of fatty meat, waiting for others to divide up. The more Mo Yi, though, the more terror curdled his blood. Very soon, the back of his shirt was drenched in sweat. Things have really taken a bad turn. He had fallen into someone's scheme to return to the sect, and that was equivalent to exposing Huang Yueli to the enemy. And she was being exposed without any form of defense. The worst thing of all was that he had only realized this only now. He had spent 3 days traveling back, and subsequently, he was sent to the guest room to rest for another 3 days. All in all, it had been a total of 6 days. For a practitioner to kill someone, under the circumstances of disparity of power, one would only require a few breaths to kill. 6 days was enough for Huang Yueli to be killed 180 times. Now, there was a 90% chance that Huang Yueli had already met with an evil scheme. Thinking of this, Mo Yi's heart was filled with guilt as he couldn't wait to use his live to atone for his mistake. No one knew more clearly than him on how important Huang Yueli was to Li Moying. That aloof and emotionless master of his had usually not paid any attention to any woman, and for the first time in his life, he had been touched by a lady, and for the very first time, he put down his status and wooed her. Even after she had repeatedly rejected him, he didn't show any signs of unpleasantness. In front of Huang Yueli, Li Moying seemed to have changed into another person. He was no longer that aloof, peerless genius who was illness-ridden and had been bullied from young. But he had changed into a living person filled with human emotions, and he was willing to open up his heart and accept the people in this world. After getting to know Huang Yueli for over a month, the number of times that Li Moying had smiled was much more than the total number that he had smiled over the past 20 years. Mo Yi couldn't imagine if Huang Yueli were to be murdered and this news reached Li Moying's ears. What would his reaction be? He would be so upset and heartbroken. From Mo Yi's understanding of his master, Li Moying might even go into chi deviation on the spot, adding on to the destructive power when his illness happens. By then, perhaps the entire South Yu Kingdom would be buried as a funerary object for Huang Yueli. As Mo Yi thought, he started to shiver uncontrollably. He suddenly stood up from the chair and, using his footworks, he used the fastest speed he would muster and sped towards a rear mountain. He knew that even if he were to die 1,000 deaths, it would not be able to make up for the mistake that he had made. He also knew that he had no face to appear before his master. But he must make use of this time to inform Li Moying of this news. No matter what, it was already too late. But what if matters had not been what he thought of? What if, based on his future mistress's wit, she had really managed to last till now? Mo Yi was very sure that there was 1 in 1,000 possibility that Huang Yueli was still alive. In that case, Li Moying would not give up on this vague hope, and he would definitely rush back to South Yu Kingdom to save her. You can also listen on. Mo Yi's silhouette flew at a great speed in the sect. With his protector token, he gained entry into the front and mid-mountain pathway. Those outer disciples didn't dare to stop him at all. But once he had entered a majestic stone door outside the rear mountain, he was stopped by someone. Mo Yi's face was filled with anxiety as he flashed his identity token. "Senior brothers, please let me pass." I am the commander of the Shadow Guards under young sect master, and I have extremely pressing matters which I must tell the young sect master. As the matter is very urgent, I'm unable to tell you more, so please let me pass." As he was saying, his footsteps didn't slow down as he attempted to rush through the stone door. However, the few disciples guarding the door refused to budge and stood in one line as they block his way. "AI, wait. Senior Brother M.O.E., don't be in such a rush. Yes, the rear mountain is where our sect's direct disciples are in closed-door cultivation. Sect Master has ordered that no one is allowed to enter and disturb their training." "Right, Senior Brother M.O.E., you just rushed back from outside, so you're probably not aware, right? In another 20 days, our sect will be having a tournament with several West Sky Region sects, and this is the main event for our sect. If those West Sky Region's trash were to successfully defeat us, then in the next few thousand years, our sect will not be able to raise our heads in front of them." That's right. Senior Brother M.O.E., it wouldn't be good to disturb young sect master at this point of time, right? M.O.E. grew more flustered as he replied, "Yes, I know what you all mean, but my matter is extremely pressing and must immediately report to young sect master." He was so flustered as though but was on fire as his forehead was filled with sweat. However, the disciples guarding the door still refused to budge, and all of them had a perplexed expression on their faces. "Io, Senior Brother M.O.E., please don't make things difficult for us. Yes, Sect Master had already set strict orders that we're not allowed to let anyone go and disturb young Sect Master and the others. If we were to let you through, Sect Master would definitely blame us for it, and we're not able to handle the blame. Yes, Senior Brother M.O.E., you're one of the trusted aides beside young Sect Master, so you have him to cover you. So Sect Master will definitely forgive you, but for us, the ordinary disciples, we have no one to protect us, so we're not able to take up this responsibility." All of them gave their opinions and were resolute in their rejection. M.O.E. knew that they were only doing their job, and this matter was actually not their fault, nor should they be blamed. If it hadn't been for the fact that the matter that he wanted to report was regarding Huang Yueli's life and death, M.O.E. also wouldn't want to make things difficult for them. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. "In this case, I won't make things difficult for you. Would Senior Brothers please kindly help me pass a message to young Sect Master? If young Sect Master wishes to meet me, then it wouldn't be your responsibility. If he's not willing, I also won't make things difficult for you all." M.O.E. settled for the next best decision as he spoke. The few of them hesitated. M.O.E. hurriedly brought out some concealed weapons and handed it over to them. Those concealed weapons were all 4th-grade profound armaments and had been pushed into his hands by Huang Yueli. Although those were delicate items, and it could only be used just once, but the power was extremely huge, and it was not something that these ordinary inner disciples could afford. When the few of them saw these profound armaments, their eyes shone as they didn't hesitate any longer. "All right then, your brother here will help you pass on your message. But I'll say the ugly words beforehand. If young Sect Master is not willing to meet you, you will have to leave the rear mountain immediately, otherwise we will report this to the Sect Master. You can also listen on." M.O.E. hurriedly nodded. It should be done so, exactly like this. He was very sure that once Li Moying hears of his request to meet him, he would definitely link it to Huang Yueli getting into trouble and would meet up with him. Perhaps Li Moying would not even continue to stay there for even a breath's time and rush out to question him. So as long as these disciples guarding the door were willing to help him pass the message, he had nothing to worry about. The few of the disciples discussed and sent out one of them who turned and entered the stone door. M.O.E. had just heaved a sigh of relief, but at the very next moment, a voice raised unexpectedly. "The few of you, what are you doing?" Hearing that voice, everyone froze in mid-air and the movements in their hands stopped, and a terrified expression hung across their faces as they turned around. First, young miss. The leader of the guards shouted out her identity. Everyone's feel turned to jelly as they knelt onto the ground. Murong Fei was dressed in a light purple long-tailed long skirt as she gradually approached them in a swaying manner, and beside her were 4 serving maids. In each serving maid's hand was a large serving tray made out of white sandalwood, and on were several exquisite porcelain bowls, where a wonderful fragrance whiffed out from the bowls. Moe's expression changed as he lowered his head to pay his respects. Murong Fei had a cold expression on her face as she swept her glance around everyone. Wherever her glance fell onto, that cold glare had already scared the door-guarding disciples until they were trembling non-stop. "You all, who can tell me what were you all saying earlier? And what were you doing?" Her voice was chilly as it bore in might and icy intent. The commander of the guards had long been scared out of his wits, but he could not afford to not answer her. First, young miss. Earlier this senior brother Moe said he would like to meet with young Secmaster, and he had extremely pressing matters to report. But, as what you had mentioned earlier, Secmaster had requested all the direct disciples to go into closed-door cultivation in the rear mountain, and besides you, no one was allowed to visit. So we were advising senior brother Moe to leave. His words had pushed all the blame onto Moe. The few of them were responsible disciples, and it had been because of Moe's gibberish. As for them, they have no wrongdoing and attempted to cover up this matter. However, Murong Fei gave a cold snort. "Do you think I'm blind? Earlier, Moe took out some stuff to bribe you. Did you think I didn't see it? Still not going to hand it up." All of them knew they were unable to hide things any further and hurriedly took out the profound armaments that they had kept. 4th tier concealed weapons. Not bad. Moe, you're really senior brother's right-hand man. You're so generous. As for the rest of you, it's against the sect regulations to accept bribes. Murong Fei snorted. "Today, after your duty is up, all of you must go to the punishment hall and receive 12 whips. If I were to see this again, don't blame me for being merciless and drive you out of the sect." The disciples guarding the door were scared out of their wits, and they didn't even dare to beg for mercy, as all of them kowtowed to accept their punishment. Murong Fei didn't bother about them, but turned her glare to Moe. "Moe, I have told you before that senior brother is currently in closed-door cultivation, and no one is allowed to disturb. You actually dared to come to the rear mountain behind my back, attempting to interrupt senior brother's cultivation. You dare to agree overtly but oppose in secret on purpose. What ill intentions do you have for planning such a thing?" You can also listen on. Moe realized the situation and hurriedly tried to explain. "First, young miss, things are not what you think it is. If possible, I would definitely not interrupt Master's cultivation, but I really have extremely urgent matters and must meet with Master." "Ha!" Murong Fei was filled with disdain as she snorted. "Extremely urgent matters? Just how urgent was it? Can it be as urgent when compared to the tournament with the West Sky region? It really is that urgent. To Master, this matter may be even more important than the tournament." Moe replied. "First, young miss, I only need a quarter of an hour, so please try to help." "Impossible." Before Moe had completed his sentence, Murong Fei rejected his request. Not to mention a quarter of an hour. Even if it was a breath's time, senior brother is not able to waste this. "First, young miss, our master would definitely want first-hand information on this news. If my master finds out that you're obstructing me from informing him, he will definitely not be happy with you." "AI, using senior brother to suppress me?" Murong Fei swept him one glance. "Since that's the case, whatever pressing matter you have, you can tell me directly. If the matter that you say has been ascertained by me that it really is a pressing matter, then I'm also not someone who is unreasonable, so just say it out." Murong Fei stared at Moe as she displayed an all ears look. "This matter is..." Moe had just started off, and as the words came to his mouth, it suddenly halted. The fact that Lemoyne had got to know of a young lady in the South Yu Kingdom and had unfathomably gotten engaged with her. If this matter were to be told, it was very difficult for anyone to believe it. plus the fact that he had been tricked and someone was intending to harm Huang Yueli were just his own conjecture and with no actual evidence. It wouldn't even more absurd, even if others were to believe what he said. But in the eyes of the high and mighty geniuses in the sect, Huang Yueli was just a second-degree realm practitioner, and her birth was just from a small country. So she wasn't compatible to be with Li Moying at all. So what if she died? Was it a big matter? For those kind of people, Li Moying's closed-door cultivation was considered as a big matter. Even if he were to say these out, no one would think his matter was pressing. Besides that, the more important thing was before this first young Miss Morong. She was one of the favored ladies who tried to woo Li Moying. If she found out that Li Moying already had a sweetheart on his mind, not only would she not help Huang Yueli, she might even harm her instead. Mo reacted just in time and took a deep breath as he swallowed the words back. First young miss, please forgive me. The matter that I am going to report is confidential, and Master had specially instructed that I cannot leak things out. So I must meet with my master before I can reveal it. Murong Fei's eyes turned chilly as she heard his explanation. What Mo was trying to conceal was something that she was very clear about. He was worried that she would find out that Li Moying has a fiancé. She had never thought that even the number one shadow guard beside Li Moying would protect that lass to this extent. After realizing that she might have met with danger, he had rushed over anxiously. This had also verified what Murong and I told her before. Senior brother really cared about this country lass very much. Luckily, she had made a prompt decision and acted beforehand to kill that young lass in the southern region. Murong Fei narrowed her eyes and shouted loudly. Men, Moe, and West Sky Region sect have collaborated and is attempting to interrupt our senior brother's closed-door cultivation, harboring evil intentions. Quickly take him down and lock him up in the water prison. You can also listen on. Moe gasped in shock. First young miss, you're mistaken. I really did not intentionally interrupt Master's closed-door cultivation. You're really mistaken. Murong Fei had sent someone to keep a close eye on where Moe was staying, and it was through one of their reporting that she found out he had come to look for Li Moying at the rear mountain, and specially came forward to stop him. Murong Fei came prepared as she brought along several fifth-degree realm inner disciples with her. Moe was unable to defeat so many people alone, and he really didn't want to hurt his fellow disciples so very quickly. He lost his opportunity. The few inner disciples went forward and tied him up. Moe couldn't believe that Murong Fei would actually capture him. As the sect master's daughter, Murong Fei had been living under the guise as an angel in the sect. Besides that, she was very apt at pretending to be gentle and amicable, especially towards Li Moying's subordinates. So every single time, she would inquire after their welfare, acting like she is their mistress. So before today, Moe's impression of her wasn't too bad at all, and he had never expected Murong Fei to use such extreme ways to prevent him from meeting Li Moying. First young miss, he tried to explain again. But Murong Fei waved her hand impatiently. You dare to defy sect master's commands, and now even trying to deny. Seems that you're really not going to weep until you see the coffin. What are you guys standing there for? Still not going to bring him away? The few of them responded and dragged Moe away. Murong Fei's face displayed a smile. In actual fact, she had thought that after these 6 to 7 days' duration, Huang Yueli was definitely dead by now. The reason why she was doing this was out of prudence. Only, she didn't know what Wafang Bing was doing at all. After he had killed that slut, he still hadn't came back to report, and not knowing where he had wandered off to. Till today, he had yet to return to the sect. Men, they're really unpredictable. Although Murong Fei was filled with discontent, but she didn't give any further thought to it. For what she felt, for Wafang Ping to go after a second-degree realm lass. Naturally, there shouldn't be any accidents. Murong Fei turned back and indicated the 4 serving maids to follow up to her pace, and after that, she walked towards the rear mountain. Li Moying was still alone, quietly sitting in front of the cliff at Heaven Crate Valley practicing his swordplay. During his cultivation, the surrounding 10 miles of the rear mountain was filled with thunder attributed profound energy, and as if it was attracted by his internal profound energy, various fluctuations and lighting were seen flashing in the sky, painting a large domain of the Reed Mountain into a dangerous thunder domain. This was Lemoyne's domain. Those who had not been given permission to enter were all injured by lightning, and as for those whose cultivation levels were slightly worse off, the minute they stepped into the boundary of the thunder domain, they would be turned into scorched corpse on the spot. Lemoyne quietly sat there, as thunder rays could be seen indistinctly around him, casting a blue-purplish ray on his handsome face. This made him seem even powerful and mysterious. Moron-Fay was just several hundred meters away from him before she felt her body not being able to take the pressure, unable to take another step forward. "Senior brother," she called out in a low tone. Lemoyne's eyes suddenly opened, and his eyes flashed a purple streak of lightning. That glance was extremely terrifying, causing Moron-Fay to shudder uncontrollably. "It's you." Lemoyne spoke icily, unable to tell the emotions in his tone. "You can also listen on." Moron-Fay was intimidated by his surrounding vigor, and her heartbeat almost stopped. It was with great difficulty that she regained her senses as she hastily said, "Yes, senior brother. I heard from Master that you've already been in seclusion in Heaven Crate Valley for 10 days. During this time, you didn't sleep nor rest, and I'm worried that your body would not be able to take it." Lemoyne's glare was cold as he replied indifferently, "No matter. Since the tournament dare is nearing, I don't have much time to waste. But suitable rest time is necessary," Moron-Fay advised. "Senior brother, I brought along some medicinal cuisines which will be able to help in establishing your primordial spirit and replenish your profound energy, something which I had started brewing 3 days ago. Just rest for 2 hours or so and have something to eat, which will yield better results in your cultivation." Saying that, she personally took the tray and walked over. Moron-Fay put the dishes on the side of the stone table, and using her delicate hand, which was applied with cinnabar, she lifted the spoon and cooled the medicinal cuisine into a bowl. As the South Sky region's #1 beauty and favored Lady Moron-Fay, she had numerous suitors, and even though many peerless geniuses pursued her endlessly, they were unable to make her through a glance at them. But now, she had put down her status, and like an ordinary serving maid, she personally served Lemoyne his meals. If it had been any other man, the satisfaction in their inner hearts would probably have reached the peak and would have fainted from happiness long ago. However, Lemoyne's expression still remained indifferent. He didn't receive the bowl, which Moron-Fay had passed to him, but looked behind her back as he questioned, "I've been practicing my swordplay. For 10 days already?" "That's right, senior brother. My father and the Sex junior brothers and junior sisters are all worried about you, concerned that you may forget to rest and eat, thus affecting your condition. We wondered if senior brother had gotten some comprehension from his round swordplay." Lemoyne absent-mindedly replied, "I have naturally comprehended something out of this. This time, I had understood all of the sword markings left by the forebears and realized that I had broken through the last level of bottleneck. Within 3 days' time, I would be able to break through to the 7th degree realm." Seventh degree realm. Moron-Fay was so shocked that her eyes widened and her hand subconsciously shivered, almost dropping the porcelain bowl in her hand. 7th degree realm. Lemoyne was going to advance to the 7th degree realm. How is this possible? He was just 20 years old. Even though Lemoyne was known as the #1 genius in the South Sky region, and since young, every advancement he made had left everyone shocked beyond words. But this was simply atrocious. A 20-year-old 7th degree realm practitioner was unheard of in the entire Soaring Heavens continent's history. Even the current #1 expert in Soaring Heavens continent, Mu Chengying. He was 22 years old when he broke through to the 7th degree realm that year, and at that time, he had already set the record of the fastest breakthrough in Soaring Heavens continent history. As for now, Lemoyne was only 20 years old. he was going to break this record to become the youngest 7th-degree realm record holder in history. This didn't mean that Li Moying had even more shocking talent than Mu Qingying, and one day he would have the ability to hold on to the strongest power in the entire soaring heavens continent. Mu Rongfei's heart started pounding madly. A set of autumn watery eyes flowed onto that handsome face. The man right before her eyes, no matter if it was in terms of looks or power, were all so outstanding, incomparable to anyone else. Only this man was worthy of her, Mu Rongfei. You can also listen on. Mu Rongfei became more determined to fulfill the wish to make Li Moying her husband. She joyously said, "Senior brother, this is just too wonderful. If my father were to know about this, he would be overjoyed. With your 7th stage realm power, those West Sky region practitioners are not a match for you. You definitely reign in this round's tournament. Senior brother, you're really marvelous." As Mu Rongfei said these, her face started to flush a tinge of pink. It was only in front of such a powerful man like Li Moying did she felt that she was a delicate young lady, wishing to rely on that broad chest for protection. Mu Rongfei couldn't help but got a little closer. Li Moying's brow subconsciously creased together as he took a step backwards. "Senior brother?" Mu Rongfei didn't expect him to move away from her, as she was stunned momentarily, and her face expressed a sense of hurt. For a peerless beauty with such status and innate talent to give out such a pitiful expression, most men would feel remorse. However, Li Moying looked like he didn't notice anything as he spoke out. "In these days which I was in close-door cultivation, aren't there any letters delivered to me by the white-breasted falcon? Why is it that I had no letters at all?" Mu Rongfei heard what he said, and her heart thumped. She had previously intercepted the white-breasted falcons, which Li Moying had reared, and after giving Mo a forged letter, she killed that falcon for fear of the secret being found out. She thought it was done in top secrecy, but she never expected that Li Moying would recall this matter during his closed-door cultivation. She hastily replied, "No, I've never seen Senior Brother's white-breasted falcon fly back at all. If it was Senior Brother's letters, no one in the sect would dare to intercept it, so why would you not receive it?" "That's weird." Li Moying's dashing eyebrows creased slightly. "It's been 10 days. How could it be that there's no news at all?" Mu Rongfei's face turned palely white. She had been wondering why would Li Moying suddenly ask about a flying magical beast whose only task was to deliver letters. So he was indeed waiting for news from South Yu Kingdom, for that wretched lass's letter. Normally, when Li Moying went out for training, he might not return for several months, so he won't even take the extra step to send a letter to the sect, much less write a letter to her, Mu Rongfei. But now, it had been only 10 days since he received that lass's news, and Li Moying was already feeling uncomfortable, even actively asking on his own. Mu Rongfei was feeling so jealous that her hands were trembling. However, she didn't dare expose herself and could only forcefully suppress the anger within her, pretending to be unaware. "Senior brother, whose letter are you waiting for? Do you need me to pass down the message that once there is any news of your falcon flying back into the mountains, I'll let them to report to you immediately?" Li Moying shook his head. "Forget it, there's no need." He didn't notice Mu Rongfei's strange attitude, but had already immersed into his own thoughts. Why was there no news from his Lier for such a long time? Surely she couldn't have gotten into trouble, right? But Lier had Mo by her side, a practitioner who was at 5th stage realm peak. In a place like South Yu Kingdom, it was absolutely an incredible source of power, so basically there shouldn't be any trouble. Could it be that that conscienceless lass refused to write him any letters? That was highly possible. After all, he had written so many letters to Lier, but she had never written back any letters to him personally. You can also listen on. All news regarding her will be pinned down and sent over by Mo. Thinking of this, Li Moying became displeased. This lass, she really had no conscience. He had noted all of these down in his heart. she dared to treat him in this way. After he had settled the sex matters and finally found her, he would absolutely punish her severely. At least, he had to punish her to offer him kisses. At least 100 times. Lemoyne was still considering in his thoughts as the sides of his lips curled into a smile. Speaking of this, he had not intended to waste so much time in closed-door cultivation in the sect. He preferred to stay by Huang Yueli's side and rush back to attend the tournament just a few days before it started. But after the sect master had heard about his engagement in South Yu Kingdom, he had already spoken to him personally once. The sect master was naturally not satisfied with Huang Yueli, a plausible but fallacious 6th-grade talent, not of outstanding birth, was simply incompatible with him. Sect Master even suggested for him to consider marrying Murong Fei as his lawful wife, and for Huang Yueli to be a concubine instead. But Lemoyne was extremely firm in his stance that if he was unable to marry Huang Yueli as his wife, he would choose to leave the sect. In this way, Sect Master had no choice but to give way, telling him that if he were to successfully annihilate the West Sky region's sects and helped him to establish reputation for their sect, then he would agree to let Huang Yueli join their sect and agree to their marriage. Lemoyne didn't care if the people in the sect minded or not. As for whether they agree or not, it wasn't of concern to him. But as Sect Master Murong had given him a second chance in life, if he was able to get his master's blessings, he would feel overjoyed. And it was just because of this which was why he suppressed the urge to stay beside Huang Yueli, forcing himself to go into closed-door cultivation at the rear mountain. Luckily, the tournament was about to start soon, and he had only needed to settle the matters here before he could run off to South Yu Kingdom Open and above board to abduct that little lass back to the sect. Thereafter, they would get a long day and night, not leaving each other's sight. Lemoyne had been imagining their intimacy between the both of them as his smile grew deeper. His usually aloof and cold as ice handsome looks looked like it was snow melting, giving out a gentle expression which made his beautiful facial features add a few charismatic allure. Murong Fei was stunned by this as her eyes was glued onto Lemoyne's face. Lemoyne noticed her sight and instantly felt displeased. He didn't know why whenever Lier stared at him, he only felt a sense of excitement as his entire body started to become heated, wishing to hold that lass into his embrace, to meld into his blood and bones, to love her dearly. But if other women's sight fell onto him, it only made him feel like vomiting. Lemoyne frowned. "All right, I want to continue with my closed-door cultivation. Junior sister, please leave." But senior brother, Murong Fei wanted to add on something. However, Lemoyne had already walked towards the cliff. Ignore her existence. Murong Fei could only turn around and leave in hatred. She looked at those cuisine which she had painstakingly cooked, but yet been touched as her heart wallowed in self-pity and jealousy, throwing those dishes onto the ground in anger. That slut, she actually hooked senior brother's heart away. Too bad. No matter how good your foxy skills are, what use is there? Aren't you just a dead person now? You can also listen on. Little courtyard in the forest. It had been 3 days since the medicinal bath incident where Liu Baiyan had left in anger. Huang Yueli started to think that since Liu Baiyan was that angry, he might not continue with her treatment, leave her with an existing injury on top of another new injury, and chase her out for her to survive on her own. But the very next day morning, 2 serving maids appeared on time at her room, and not only did they help her with her daily activities, they also prepared the second day's medicinal bath. I didn't expect this. Although Liu Baiyan's temper had turned strange, but his principle towards treatment for patients had not changed at all. Huang Yueli's lips curled upwards as she had no qualms about accepting the pills he had supplied. Anyway, she had already ruffled Liu Baiyan's feathers, so no matter how worried she wouldn't change anything. So she might as well take it easy. What she should do now was to get herself healed before she could consider the next step to take. Just like that, another 3 days passed. It was until the 3rd day's afternoon when a serving maid suddenly walked in to report. "Miss Bai, Master invites you to the courtyard for a while. He's waiting for you at Variance Blossom's pavilion." "Oh, really? I thought after he had through such a huge temper, he wouldn't want to see me for the rest of his life. Huang Yueli stretched her lazy waist as she walked outdoors to look for Liu Bian. The courtyard that Liu Bian had been living in seclusion was not large, but the inner structures were extremely exquisite. All the sceneries had been designed meticulously, and there were plenty of rare flowers and plants which were not found in South Yi Kingdom planted here. It could be said that for every one step you'd see one scenery, for seasons in a year could be found here, and it was extremely beautiful. Besides that, the entire hill slope at the back of the courtyard was transformed into a medical farm, where many rare and high-quality medical herbs were planted. Any medical plant from the medical farm could be auctioned off in the Sky Emperor City for at a rocket-high price. But Liu Bian seemed to use these herbs to brew soup daily or to feed his pets. Such extravagant consumption made Huang Yueli's eyebrow twitch. He's worthy of being the #1 divine doctor in soaring heaven's continent, rich and overbearing, even a spendthrift than her. Walking to where the serving maid mentioned the location of the Variance Blossoms Pavilion was, Huang Yueli raised her head as she saw Liu Bian inclined right in front of her, sitting in the pavilion. As the gentle breeze blew past, his white robe fluttered. On the exquisite side of his face, a sense of loneliness was revealed. His eyelids drooped slightly, but his vision of sight was aloof, as though he was looking at something inside his hand. Divine Dr. Liu. Huang Yueli called him from afar and walked over. Liu Bian stared blankly for a while, and his right hand instinctively withdrew and kept the item in his hand into his sleeve. Huang Yueli was too far away, and Liu Bian's action was too fast, so she had only took a glance from afar, not seeing clearly what he had in his hands was. She could only see that item giving out dazzling rainbow rays under the sunlight. That dazzling ray, although it was just an instance, had attracted her attention. In her memory, only one stone had such radiant glow. Rainbow Spirit Crystal. This was an extremely rare 9th grade material, and in an entire soaring heavens continent, there were only 7 pieces. Every piece could clearly tell their history. Rainbow Spirit Crystal's effect could greatly amplify the recovery rate of one's profound energy, and owning one piece of Rainbow Spirit Crystal would ensure the profound energy being regenerated. In times of a long battle, it was a magic tool which would determine the winner or loser. You can also listen on. But the Rainbow Spirit Crystal was the most outstanding of all. Not only did it have a powerful effect, also that exceedingly dazzling radiance. The Rainbow Spirit Crystal had an exquisite scintillation, a beautiful array of 7 different colors interchanged continuously within the piece of small crystal, as though a stream of rainbow had been confined in the crystal, so enchantingly beautiful until one could not move one side away from it. For female practitioners, Rainbow Spirit Crystal's charm was simply irresistible. Ordinary gems could only make a woman feel fortunate. The strong recovery effect, in combination with the indescribable beauty of the spirit crystal, was more than enough to get a lady's heart hooked. In her previous life, Huang Yueli also longed to own a piece of Rainbow Spirit Crystal. But due to the sparsity of the Rainbow Spirit Crystal, every piece was a valued treasure in some of soaring heaven's continent's top powerhouses. Even though Huang Yueli was the #1 armament master in the continent that year, she was unable to make those powerhouses give up that Rainbow Spirit Crystal. She was at a loss, but after thinking of many ideas, she was still unable to get one piece. Just as she was about to give up, during one of her birthday, Mu Qingying suddenly brought her to a mythical paradise and mysteriously brought out a bracelet hidden behind him. Huang Yueli looked carefully, overwhelmed with surprise and joy, and couldn't speak properly for quite a while. Because what Mu Qingying had given her was a bracelet made out of Rainbow Spirit Crystal. It had always been something that she wanted, but was unable to get it. Where did you get this from? You don't need to bother about this. This is for you. Do you like it? Mu Qingying smiled calmly as he avoided her question. Yet Huang Yueli noticed that something was amiss. Something's not right. This is such a big piece of Rainbow Spirit Crystal. This piece belongs to Beam Moon Palace. How did you get them to give up this to you? They didn't agree to the exchange when I said I'd refine 10 pieces of 9-grade, upper-level, profound armaments for them. I naturally have my own ways. You only need to answer me. Do you like it or not? Mu Qing gradually got closer to her as he whispered gently beside her ear. Huang Yueli's face flushed into a scarlet red and mumbled softly, I like. Subsequently, she found out that in order for Mu Qing to obtain this rainbow spirit crystal, he had agreed to a shockingly major task, almost paying it with his life in order to give her this surprise. And on her birthday, when Mu Qing had rushed over, the injuries on his body had yet to recover fully. Huang Yueli looked at the rainbow spirit crystal in Lu Baiyan's eyes, and memories from her past life started to flow back into her. She wondered if the bracelet had exploded together along with her. If that rainbow spirit crystal were to be broken into smithereens, it would really be a waste. If it hadn't been broken into pieces, then in whose hands were it in now? Huang Yueli had been indulging in flights of fancy when Lu Baiyan turned around and looked at her. You're really slow. You've gotten accustomed to staying here just after a few days, Huang Yueli replied. Yes, I am really grateful to Divine Dr. Lu for your warm-hearted reception and for treating my injuries. How can I ever repay you for your gratitude? These words were coming from the bottom of her heart, because if it wasn't for Lu Baiyan, she would have been dead by now. So she was still grateful to him. Lu Baiyan threw her a glance and spoke in a neither cold nor warm tone. It looks to me that you're already used to the lifestyle. These few days, you'd either eat or sleep. No different from a pig. If you were to say you're not used to it, who would believe you? You can also listen on. The corners of Huang Yueli's mouth twitched, feeling that the gratitude that she had earlier had vanished by half. This really was... Ivory would not sprout from a dog's mouth. How was she to reply to this? However, Lu Baiyan didn't expect her to reply as he continued talking. After freeloading for so long and wasting so many of my valuable herbs, don't tell me you're just intending to take advantage of me. Haven't you ever considered how you should repay me? Ugh, Huang Yueli went into a blank. To repay a debt naturally was entirely justified. But when she looked to Lu Baiyan in her past life for treatment, she had never paid him any compensation, so subconsciously she had missed out on this. It was after Lu Baiyan's reminder that she suddenly recalled that her identity was no longer the same as her past life, so naturally Lu Baiyan would not let her take advantage of him for nothing. She hastily added, Of course I know about this reasoning, and I will definitely repay you. But Divine Dr. Lu, you're the #1 divine doctor in the continent. Whatever you want, you'd already have it, whereas I'm only a second-stage realm practitioner, so I really don't know what compensation I can give you in order to satisfy you. If Divine Dr. Lu, you have anything that you want, please let me know, and I'll send it over with my 2 hands. Really? That's great. You have something that I'm interested in. Lu Baiyan raised his brow, and on his charming face, he gave out a lazy smile as his gaze was fixated on Huang Yueli. That expression seemed to be sizing up the item he had in his hands. Huang Yueli felt uncomfortable by his gaze as she subconsciously took a step backward. Divine Dr. Lu, please go ahead and speak your mind. Lu Baiyan sat up straight and looking at her. He opened his mouth and said, Accompany me for 3 months. What? Huang Yueli didn't expect him to say this, and her eyes opened wide. Lu Baiyan ill-intentionally curled the corners of his lips as his smile looked slightly evil. Need me to make things clearer? Accompany me for 3 months. During this period, no matter what I ask you to do, you're not allowed to reject, and you must follow what I tell you to do. But Huang Yueli frowned. Why do you need me to accompany you? Lu Baiyan gave a soft snigger as he suddenly stood up. He looked slightly skinny dressed in the white robe when he was sitting down, but when he stood up, he revealed a well-built, muscular body. Step by step, he got closer to Huang Yueli, almost to the point of sticking to her before he stopped. To want you to accompany me, naturally because I have some interest in you. Don't you understand? Are you really that pure? Huh? Lu Baiyan stuck close to her ear as he blew some air towards her earlobes, intentionally making things sound extremely ambiguous. Huang Yue creased her eyebrows sensitively as she turned her head towards one side. Lu Baiyan held up her chin and continued to tease her. Why? You've already stripped and bathed in front of me, so why are you pretending to be reserved now? My meaning, you should be very clear, isn't it? He purposely said this, thinking that this little lass might just jump in shock the very next moment and treat him like a pervert, flying into a rage out of humiliation. Or perhaps she was smitten by his charm and shyly rejecting, not daring to accept his request directly. However, what was unexpected was, there's no problem agreeing to your request, but 3 months is simply too long. I can only afford to stay here for 7 days. You can also listen on that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.